Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a little something on the bench for you here. So kind of going through my 1S Whoop charging. So this is for 1S charging, discharging, storage charging, all that kind of thing. And as you know, if you've been following the channel, this is what I was using. Just never found anything that really did as good as it did for the money. I mean, this was just a very inexpensive and decent way of charging 1S Lipos. And I had a few of these running. I have a video that I did for my 1S Whoop charging. And then I did this update video. And that's when I moved to this new power supply. But now I've kind of updated a little bit further, so I'm excited to share with you the ViFly Whoopster. I've ran almost a couple hundred packs through my chargers, and I feel pretty confident in sharing this with you. And I have went ahead and thrown these into a box. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with them yet, but in this video I'm just going to go through all the 1S Whoop charging. I'm going to call this the ultimate 1S Whoop charger. So I don't know if you've seen this video of my ultimate charging station. But this is just for 1S. So I'd like to share some of the things that I found with the Whoopster that I like, some things that I would change. I would love to know in comments, if you have one, what would you change? What would be your ideal 1S Whoop charger? So yeah, if you have one and you've got some experience with that, I would definitely like to know. But let's go ahead and get into all these things and how well they work together. And that's what this video is about. Stay tuned. Alright, so first of all, we'll start off with the power supply. If you've already watched the video of updating my 1S Whoop charging, then you're already familiar with this. But this is a charging bank for, basically it comes with this end here. So this is a 12 volt DC out, okay? And this is a 15 amp output. So this thing, you know, is ready to go. There's really nothing you're going to do to overload this circuit in this format, okay, with these components. This is basically for a traveler, an RVer, or a camper. You can plug your hair dryer into it, so you can go into a hotel, plug this in, and still use your same hair dryer that uses the, I don't know, for lack of terms, the automotive 12 volt plug. So I went ahead and put an XT60 on the other end of that, and that brings me to this. This is the plug that I went with. This is something I found on Amazon, but the nice thing is it has a 2.4 and a 1 amp. So 2.4 for like your cell phone or tablet, and then a 1 amp for things that can't handle as much amp, like a vape or something like that. So this just simply plugs in here, and now that's ready to go. And then I have this three-way. So I have the XT60 that plugs into the power supply. So in the power supply, I just went ahead and took out the circuit for the plug and installed an XT60. So now I have my power supply. It has a LED here on the front. So I don't know if you can see that. It's not very lit up. Kind of. So it lets me know that the power's on. The nice thing about this power supply is it does have a fan. It has a very large heat sink in it as well, so the fan will draw the air through and keep it cool. So I'm not sure if there's a product code number, but 180 watts, so this thing will take care of whatever you need to do. So we'll set him aside. Let me actually turn him, knocking everything over. Alright, so now I have my two chargers. I went with two chargers so that way I could charge all 10 of my packs. So then I could also run storage on one. So if we're wrapping up a race or getting done, we can run storage on one and still charge on another. So it's just nice to have two of them. ViFly had sent me this one for testing and notating what I think of it and all that kind of thing. So that's why in comments I would like to know your opinion and feedback on this charger. So I have 3 XT60s coming out. So this is all 12 volts coming out. So go ahead and plug these in. And then I have this 12 volt going out to my, I don't know if you can see that, but it has an LED. It's kind of hard to see with my lighting, but it has an LED ring. So in the dark when you're whooping, you can still read that. So that's kind of how it's set up. So you can just plug in your batteries and then go through all the settings. This has really worked out well for me. It's really compact. I can throw it in my backpack, no issue. This power supply comes with like a I think it might be even 10-foot cord. So very nice to reach out to an outlet. It's just small, easy, light. Just wrap it all up, throw it in the backpack. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in for you, and I'll leave one of these whoopsters plugged into my power supply. We'll set that off to the side. This is pretty self-explanatory. I don't know really what more to say about that other than it's nice to be able to take that and plug it into your car and still have, charging. So pretty nice. That is kind of one thing about the charger that I miss. So this is the charger that I previously used, and it had a 5-volt 1-amp output here on the back. So you had a power supply go in, you had another power supply you could use. So these are in, and then this one was out. So it was nice to be able to, I had 3 of them so I could plug in whatever I wanted to charge my phone or whatever it is I'm charging. So these don't have an output for charging USB. So that's one thing that I would definitely want to change about this. It's just having some sort of output. I mean, it could go anywhere really. But definitely like a 5-volt out 1-amp would be just right as far as I'm concerned. So I'll go ahead and unplug this and set him aside, and then I'll unplug one of these, get that aside. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this one, and we'll go through some of the functions. Alright, so we're all zoomed in here. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the normal mode for charging. Let me get this little tab out of the way. I like to leave these screen protectors on for forever. But anyway, so my incoming voltage is set right here. So the power supply incoming voltage from the XT60 is showing up at 13.1. And then I have a charge rate of 1.5 amps. So each one of these ports will output 0.5. So I need to change this if I'm doing like a 300 mAh pack. So 0.3. So that would be 1 C rating. So I'm charging my battery at 1 C rating. And that's kind of the recommendation from all manufacturing basically. I do like to run a 2 C rating because I replace my 1S Lipos enough that it's not a big deal. So at 0.6, each port will output 0.6. So that's a 2 C rating. And I run R-line Tat2 batteries. R-line Tat2, the manufacturer says 2C is acceptable, so that's what I run at. And they are high volt batteries. If you switch here, then it will go to low volt battery. So that's 4.2 volts. So you'll have a 4.2 charge. If you put the high volt, then you'll have a 4.3. So the R-line 1S batteries that I use are 4.35. So this is the Lipo that I'm running. So you can just see that if you want. And then I have cut the end off. It's nice because I got these on a pretty decent discount because they had the PH 2.0, which is that connector. And I switched to the BT 2.0. I have a video. I'll try to remember to put a card up here in the corner for you so you can see how to change your connector out. But the BT 2.0 allows a bit more amperage out to the whoop. The PH 2.0 is basically rated for 2 amps. So as you know, with the battery hooked up to your whoop, you can output a lot more than 2 amps when you full punch. The BT 2.0 can handle that. So if we plug in our Lipo into the first port, so port 1, you'll see now that port 1 has come up. And this is really something that I like quite a bit. You can see all 6 at the same time. Unlike this one where you had to cycle through, it would cycle, 1, and then you'd have to wait, and it would go to 2, and then you'd have to wait, and it'd go to 3, so on and so forth. And it would also go through the USB and the input voltage. So there's 6, 7, 8 cycle rotations you'd have to wait for just to see what port 1 was again. So quite annoying. Don't have to deal with that anymore. So right here you can see what that LiPo is. It's storage, perfectly on storage at 3.85. Now, if I were to change this down to 0.3, so that would be 0.3 amp would be 1C charge rate at high volt, 4.35. And if I hold down on this button, it will go from charge ready to charging. So now we have applied that 0.3 to the LiPo. So if I want to stop, I just hold down on it again, and it goes into a ready state, and it's displaying what the current voltage of the LiPo is. Now, if I want to, I can unplug my LiPo, and then I can change this to low. For storage voltage, I like to be at 3.8 at 3.85. So if you put this down and you click here on this little slider from full from full charge to storage. So now you've basically turned this into a storage charger or discharger. So if I had a battery that was over the amount, so this is at 385, so if I plug this in and then I hold down, you can see here it says storage ready, hold down on it. If you also notice that the yellow light is illuminated, this is actually in a discharge state. You can see we're dropping down. So this lower voltage will be about 3.8 to 3.82 roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if we unplug this, wait until that goes to zeros, and then we go ahead and flip it into the higher of the storage voltage, and we hold down here, going from storage ready to storage charging. Now we can see that the indicator, well, it says okay because 385 is what it is. Let me see if I can find, let me turn that down to ready. Let me see if I can find a battery real quick. All right, I found one. So this is at 378. So we'll go ahead and plug in 378. All right. So now 377, 376, and we'll go ahead and hold down on that, and it will go into storage charging. So now if we look at the indicator, it's red. So that lets us know that it's storage charging. So it will storage charge this voltage up from 3.83 to 3.85, 3.86. All right, and then let me see here. We'll turn that back off so that goes into ready state. LEDs go off. So that's how you storage charge and charge your LiPos. The storage charger does not have the ability to run both of these ports at the same time. The manufacturer has said that if you plug in a LiPo to both of these, you could overcurrent the circuitry or damage your batteries. So don't want to do that. So one thing else is really cool is on the side here, you have your XT60 coming in. So now I'm running my power supply 12 volt, but you can actually plug in a 2 to 5S LiPo into this charger. The 2 to 5S LiPo, normally when you use your LiPo battery for charging, it's kind of a sketchy thing because you can run your LiPo down too far. But ViFly says that there's some internal circuitry in here that will blink and let you know that this voltage is getting to 3.85. And if that voltage were to get down to 3.3 volts, the Whoopster will actually turn off and go into like a power save mode to keep your LiPo from getting destroyed. So that's really cool. There's also a USB Type-C input for charging, and then also a barrel plug. USB-C, you want to make sure that you're using like a higher volt, so like a 12 volt quick charger for like your tablet or something like that. you can't go below, I think it's 9 volts, but if you're at 9 volts, which would be kind of the minimum, you're only able to charge up to 0.6. So you wouldn't be able to go into the 0.7, 8, 9. Okay, so it'd be limited if you do 9 volts coming in here to the USB-C. So make sure it's a 12 volt quick charger that you're using to power this up. There is no USB charger output, so that's one thing that I would definitely want to modify or change about this. And then really the only thing that I can see that I would want different is that these screw heads protrude, and when I'm putting it on certain surfaces, I get kind of worried that it might scratch something. So I kind of just leave them on I just lay them on my power supply. So maybe an encasement, and then also to keep tools and stuff in my bag from stabbing through in here, something of that nature. The other thing is if you plug in your Lipo backwards. So on this BT 2.0, it's not that big a deal. It really is kind of difficult to plug them in backwards. It can be done because this barrel, your female connector here, is so close to the edge that it is possible. But for the PH 2.0, it's very easy to plug them in backwards, especially if it's dark and you're not paying attention. So they don't have surge protection on it right now. If you plug a Lipo in here, fortunately I haven't done it, but I've had a friend of mine do it, and it will burn the port out, so that port will be useless. So that's happened on 2 of his. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if there was 2 changes I would make, I would want a USB charging output, and then also some sort of surge protection in case I plug a Lipo in backwards. But other than that, this thing has really been a nice charger. It's very accurate. Every single time I've taken the batteries off, I always check it with my little checker here. This checker's accurate. I've checked it with my multimeter to make sure. The input outputs of this, I've checked with my multimeter. So just to kind of go through real quick some of the other features of it. So when this LED is red in your charging, it's just letting you know that it's charging. And then if you see it blinking, so it's kind of in a way you can think fast charging is done. So it'll start to blink as it kind of tops off the battery. So it's just about ready. And then the LED will go out once it's done, and the little screen will say okay. So that's kind of cool too. So I can't really say much more about it other than it's pretty awesome. I'm going to recommend it. I don't have any affiliated links. Actually, my channel doesn't have any affiliated links at this point. But I got one on Amazon, and then this is the one that they sent for testing. So they have ViFly actually has an Amazon store, so that's where I purchased it from. And it's the same price as anyone else. You can get them at a lot of other places, but that's what I ended up doing. They also recommended 28 watts minimum. So your input power supply, which mine is 180 watts, so we don't have any issues there. But they do recommend that it's at least 28 watts to power the unit. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing a power supply for this. And then lastly, I'll just say that down in here, there is a heat sink here, and then there's another heat sink here. You can see quite a long heat sink, and that's for discharging. Let me go ahead and zoom out. I think we pretty much covered everything on here. If you have any questions, or if I missed something, let me know in comments. That would be great. But yeah, let's go ahead and zoom out of here, and I'll show you something else. So the discharging on here, I haven't used this discharger. I'm not really into like wanting to discharge batteries through my chargers because I use my chargers to charge, and when you discharge, it creates an enormous amount of heat. So I can only imagine how long it would take. If you've discharged 6 Lipos on this, let me know how long did it take. because I think, if I were to discharge one lipo on each, maybe I'm not sure how long it would take. So in comments, let me know. Maybe I can get some accurate numbers on that. I haven't tested the discharging as far as, full voltage down. I haven't done any testing. I did plug in 6 lipos for storage, and I was very close to that storage voltage, and the discharging was just a very small amount, like maybe 0.2 or 0.3. So I haven't really taken a full lipo down to storage voltage in a discharge scenario. So I'd definitely like to hear your feedback on that. But the reason why basically is because I've built myself the ultimate discharger. I was thinking about doing a video on that next. We'll see. So when discharging a lipo, I can do it very quickly. I discharged like 18 lipos one night, and in the amount of time it took me to have a conversation with my mom. So that's my new 1S charging rig. If you have any questions, let me know. But this is definitely something that is a lot of fun, and just being more accurate is a lot nicer. And to be able to storage charge, because this was an absolute pain for storage charging, because you'd plug in 4 to 6 lipos into this, and then you would charge them from you ran a race and you're at 3.6 or 3.7 volts, and just going up to storage charging, you'd have to watch the indicator and wait for it to get to 3.85, and then actually 3.92 I think it was, and then unplug it to be at 3.85. Very unsatisfying. So just to stand there and hover over it. So I'm very happy that I don't have to do that anymore. The storage charging capability of this is very accurate. I've enjoyed it. But like I said, I use the smaller of the 2 numbers when I'm storage charging, just because I like to be 3.80, 3.83, something of that nature. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. If this helped you out in deciding on what you want to do for your 1S charging, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you hated it, man, you give it a thumbs down. It all works. Enjoy the breeze.